there's so much value in being able to be somewhere and actually feeling safe to express yourself.
I think we're ready to go. Episode 4, if I'm not wrong. 1, 2, birthday, yeah. Episode 4 of the Realest Podcast. Banner's right there. That's like a tradition, like the whole banner thing sitting there. That's just like our mantra now. I said it last episode when we had Bloda, our last guest. Make sure to check out that video or that podcast. It was a 2-hour podcast, so it does take some time. Talked a lot about basketball and just kind of like our first awkward experience together. It was a ton of fun. And like interestingly enough, I have a hard I can't pronounce today. Interestingly enough, we talked about like sleep at the very beginning, which is kind of weird. But I guess that's just what comes up in conversation these days, especially when you're doing podcasts. That's like the thing. Like you have an hour, 2 hours. I mean, for that sake, it was 2 hours just to basically do whatever you want to talk about. And that was the main thing. And I'm sure with our guest today, we're going to be talking a bit about just really whatever pops up, because I don't know him personally well, but I know him enough that we got him onto the podcast. Our guest today is an avid dancer and a multitude of other creative routes. We met at the 2A state track meet. He has 2 last names, and his name is Samson Irish-Lodge. Everyone, welcome Samson. Woo-wee!
Wow, thank you.
I'm the only one clapping, but I hope you're clapping at home as well.
So sweet. So sweet and kind.
I was going to say singer, but I wasn't like 100% sure about it.
Yeah, I sing.
Okay.
I dabble.
Okay. That's why I say like just a multitude of other creative routes.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really know what I was like. What do I label? Like entrepreneur, coffee shop owner.
No,
definitely
not.
I had no idea what to put. So I was like,
Yeah.
I know you do dance. We'll talk about that today.
Sure.
I was like singer. I'm like, I feel like on your Instagram I've seen singing.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't 100% sure.
Uh-huh.
So our
Yeah.
guest today, a dancer, singer, and multitude of other creative routes.
Hello.
He's got 2 last names. We met at the list goes on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Basically redo the intro with him here. Just flash him in or something.
Oh, that'd be super sick.
Yeah.
If you flash me in, that'd be super sick.
That'd be really cool.
That'd be super tough.
Yeah. How you doing today?
Today I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
I'm tired.
Sure. You just got off work.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on. You know,
Absolutely.
working like a double shift, it feels like.
Yeah, low key, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, got off work, did a little bit of training. We're in our summer
Okay.
training season
Okay.
for track.
Yeah.
And that's been going good. Rolled my ankle a few days ago.
Ah, dude, that's
It hurt really bad.
yeah.
So
It's never fun.
no,
It's
definitely
never
not.
fun.
But I'm on the come up now. I can run
Good.
again. I'm feeling good.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually when you roll your ankle, you just kind of got to give it like a day, just kind of
Yeah,
heal up.
exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially since I like play basketball, it happens a lot.
Mm.
Because I don't wear like proper basketball shoes when I'm hooping outside.
Sure.
I just kind of wear like the slides that I wore when I went to go meet you outside. I just like wear those slides and just hoop. So like it's very susceptible for them to just like roll.
Yeah.
And so it happens.
It's
It
actually really dangerous.
Yeah. I don't like go hardcore like, and I've used them for like months, so I'm pretty
Sure.
used to like the contact and
Yeah.
whatnot. It's happened a few times, but
Okay.
it's not bad. It's not bad that I'm like, oh, ow, like send me to the doctors.
Yeah,
Is
that's
this a level
good.
2 sprain? No, it's just like walk it off and you just kind of like run it off. You're like, okay.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
terrible if you were getting a level 2 sprain like every week.
Yeah. I might
Yeah.
just need to slice them. Just get some like,
Whoa.
or just not play basketball. I mean,
Ever again.
it's slice
Yeah.
or, you know,
Slice.
it's slice or not play basketball.
Slice or not. Yeah,
I really don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one or the other for sure.
Yeah. So how's life been, you know, after
Mm.
track? You know, I imagine you got some time off or no time off,
Yeah.
especially saying we're in late June.
Yeah, so life after track. I mean, we had our conference meet. It was
Okay.
great. It was cool. It was a really good time.
Yeah.
But then it was right into finals week. So finals were actually happening that week of track.
Yeah.
So I had to like schedule out things before. I had
Yeah.
like 3 projects. I was like, I'm just gonna have to do this over in a weekend,
yeah.
so I don't have to focus on it when I'm competing.
Yeah.
And so it was just honestly track. Went right back to school,
Sure.
just getting to go. And but after school was done, everything
Sure.
like that, things just chilled out. Moved into a house.
Okay.
Doing
You
that
living with
independent
anybody?
living. Yes, I'm living with 5 of my other friends.
Okay.
Beautiful home. We're loving
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Kind of like what was I going to say? I know what I was going to say. I don't know how to say it. We remember Zach.
Yes.
He was here yesterday. He wasn't on the podcast, but he's trying to get home
Sure.
to Australia because he's Australian.
To Australia.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he needed to go get a COVID test.
Wow.
He messaged me like, "Hey, the first plan was like he was going to stay here for a few days, and so I was going to try and get him on.
Okay.
Later down the line, we'll probably get him on. But
Okay.
second plan, that whole plan just kind of didn't really work out based on the flight. So plan 2 was, okay, he's going to go stay with Spencer Barrera, one of the 400 runners at Idaho.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I drove him from Deer Park all the way to Coeur d'Alene and back to my house. And then we were talking, and he would mention that he lives with like 6-7 other people.
Yeah.
Like it's just like a mini frat house.
A little bit. Yeah.
It
It's
feels
almost
like
exactly like that. Yeah.
Yeah, my cousin Hunter.
Sure.
He's not like, like immediate cousin. He's like second cousin.
Mhm,
My
sure.
dad's cousins and then son.
Okay.
So yeah, cousin to make
Sure.
it simple. He went to Gonzaga and he lived with like 6 or 7 other people.
Yeah.
And it just feels like I'm just like, how do you live with that many people? Like I don't
Yeah.
understand it because
Yeah.
I've only lived here. You
Yeah,
know,
sure.
so,
That makes sense.
like, what's that dynamic like?
It's really interesting. It's surprising how little we actually see of each other, to be honest. Because I think what ends up happening is that because everyone develops their own independent schedule.
Sure.
It's kind of rare that we're really all in one place at the same time.
Okay.
'Cause
Other than maybe at night.
Yeah.
Even
Because
maybe
none of
not
us share
night.
activities.
Yeah.
None of us do the
Okay.
same thing. We're all
Gotcha.
interested into super different things pretty
Yeah.
much, right?
Okay, gotcha.
So it doesn't end up being too crowded or feel like we're encroaching on each other's space
Yeah.
too much. Also,
Yeah.
the size of the house is relatively nice, so
Good.
we have 2 living spaces that we really share, but
Okay, gotcha.
also at the same time, unless we're having a meal or we want to
Gotcha.
play a video game or something.
Yeah. Stuff that you would generally have to have them all be there or multiple
Yes,
different people.
exactly.
Yeah, which is nice because it's like you said, you're not encroaching on anybody.
Yeah.
You know, and with that independent schedule, like, I mean, obviously you're doing your own thing with track right now, or at least summer training, your work. You know, I
Yeah.
could imagine they're also working or doing
Mhm.
errands or buying the eggs and milk for the house.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So I can understand where that's like. I don't know what it's like because all I do is live here. But I kind of to a point because like my sister when she was doing school,
Mm.
like the high school's like right there.
Oh,
So,
sure.
like,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know when she's gone. I know when she's back. And then she had basketball, and then my parents would come home around almost the same time. So it's just kind of like semi like I'm just on my own schedule. And we're all on our own schedule.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So it's just like I don't know it to a point because I'm not living with people my age. But it's just like my family. We're on different schedules, and that's just kind of what it's been like.
Yeah.
For like the last few years, especially unless we kind of subtract COVID out of that because like all of us
Yeah.
were just home. So
Yeah, exactly.
like it didn't really matter. Did you go home for last year during 2020? Like, did you go back
Yeah.
home to the West Side?
Yeah, I did, and that wasn't fun at all.
Really?
Yeah, because
Well, especially the West Side. I mean, it's just like
yeah,
it's just like
the West Side
stop
was just
everything.
like the West Side was just really bad COVID wise, right?
yeah, especially early on.
Yeah, fortunately, I think in some respects that the West Side, the Pacific Northwest in general, was
Yeah.
taking it really seriously.
Yeah, well, we were the first. Washington was the first to have it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not like the best historical thing, but like cool. I mean, puts Washington on the map for
Yeah.
maybe not so good of a reason, but
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So we kind of got hit first. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was kind of tough in that manner because it was like I'm going back home and now I'm doing online school,
Yeah.
which I've never done in my entire life.
Okay.
And I can't really see any of my friends,
Yeah.
like especially some of my closer friends, like their parents are like nurses and stuff like
Gotcha.
that.
Yeah.
So they were very cautious about having us around the house, all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
So it was hard. It was hard to just be like at home doing school online in a way that I really didn't want to. I packed myself with a bunch of classes. I was taking
Gotcha.
20 credits or something like
How
that.
many? What are you studying?
Psychology.
Okay,
And
yeah.
music and sociology.
Gotcha.
Yes. So
Yeah. Just a full plate. Just like five.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like appetizers and dessert on that plate. It's like entrees, and entrees.
yeah, I was just working.
For like 10 people.
Yeah.
like.
All in my bed. I had no it was bad.
Yeah.
It was just bad. It wasn't that fun. But we're on the come up now.
Yeah.
You know, which is a good thing.
Yeah, which is like kind of nice just because it's like, interestingly enough, like I think people maybe had like the, like, when is this going to end? And I think
Yeah.
maybe early on that was kind of like, in the back of people's minds,
Mhm.
like when is this going to end? Like when can we get back to like a normal society? Especially with like a lot of the rollout people are getting vaccinated and to what extent, especially like Washington, we kind of have that extreme of like Western Washington is pretty blue, Eastern Washington is pretty red, so it's just kind of like up in the air.
Yeah.
But and the thing is, like, some people just don't care,
Yeah,
so it's just like if you really do care, go do your thing, Yeah. And others, take it still pretty precautiously, you never really know. So it's just weird because even I was in that same boat. Like, I still saw my friends. Like, Idaho kind of said,
exactly.
In the summer.
Idaho was way different.
So I was just we went over there a few times, and even when it was first happening, like April, May, like I was still like downtown, like making videos, or at least like things that didn't involve people.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was still out and about and just making videos. It didn't seem super off that my life had changed. Minus the track aspect.
Yeah.
So that was a kind of like a big aspect that was kind of like still in the air, and like high school students, like that was like the worst possible time.
That must have sucked.
The class of 2020.
Yeah. Prom was stripped away.
Yeah, like their last like 2 months were just like sorry.
Yeah.
And then like their graduations were like, I don't even know. Some were different. Some were different.
Yeah,
some
like
the drive-in.
Yeah.
We kind of had the same thing this year.
Yeah.
But they actually had people there, which was kind of nice. So I don't know to a point what it was like, but they had like a ceremony out on the football field. And that was like a big enough area that they can fit a whole bunch of chairs and a whole bunch of people, of like 200 people graduating. And the speakers, they talk, principal, that whole routine shebang. And then they basically got into like their cars, and then they basically came into the front of the school where they can do like that photo.
Sure.
Yeah, so they had like their photo with their fake diploma at that time.
Right.
So that was kind of nice. They did that last year too.
Okay.
And then that was just kind of that. And then similar thing this year, just with the ceremony.
Yeah.
So I know. Sorry to class of 2020.
Yeah. Jeez.
We kind of skated by.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. We
like 2019 was pretty good.
2019 was sick. Actually.
It was a solid year.
Yeah.
Like I think, especially with both of us graduating.
Yeah.
Solid, like just year of our lives.
Oh, 100%.
And throughout like the 18 years that we've been alive at that point, it was nice just to finally finish our education there.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know you were coming to Whitworth.
Yeah.
Until I saw either on your Instagram, or it might have been just when I saw you at the meet, and I was like, "Oh, you go here." I was like,
"Yeah,"
because I think we were at that the Idaho meet. We were down in Idaho.
Yes.
And I saw you there, and I was like we chatted for a bit and whatnot, and then that's kind of how we started talking again.
Yeah.
Because we never really talked at that first meet at state.
Yeah, no, the vibe was different.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a rainy day. It was
sucked.
like, well, and especially like you said, the vibe with like the mentality of like this is our final meet, we're gonna go compete type thing.
Yeah.
And for me, I was pretty isolated. I was like not in my head in a bad way, but I was really focused.
Yeah,
because I knew it was a big, and I came in first seeded.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, that's huge.
Like
that's
it was a different mentality if you're like 10th or 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Later into the seeds, it's just kind of like you're there to have fun, or maybe even more further.
Yeah.
Maybe around that like 8 to 12, you're like, can I get on the podium? So it's a different vibe for sure. And so I was glad that we actually got to talk.
Me too.
And actually got to like properly meet each other. Mm-hmm. And then I learned about your last name. Do you want to explain how like your last name to a point, because I already know it, but for those listening.
Yeah. My last name is Irish-Lodge, hyphenated.
Yeah.
And it's because I was adopted by a lesbian couple.
Yeah.
And one of their last names is Irish, the other is Lodge. Put it together, might as well.
Yeah.
And then
I think it's a good way.
Both.
I think it's a good way.
Yeah. 100%.
I think, especially when people get married, one takes the last name typically.
Yeah.
And especially with, like you said, a lesbian couple.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just kind of hard to decide because they're both actually really cool.
Yeah.
Like Irish and Lodge.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of like, I think that's an interesting aspect about you, having like, maybe some people think like that last name is just, who knows, maybe it's just that last name, Irish-Lodge is the last name, but I think the backstory behind that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And something about it is just really different, I think, because I think it also mirrors the kind of relationship I have with my parents.
Yeah.
And this idea that it's like, this is like a new bloodline kind of,
yeah.
right? So
yeah,
if I have
absolutely.
a kid, they'll be the first Irish Lodges in the world.
Yeah.
From what I understand.
Yeah. I don't know any other Irish Lodges out there. If there's somebody on TikTok's like the most powerful thing that you can find
that's true.
random people.
Yeah.
find your twin. Maybe you have like a twin.
Oh.
Or like a brother that because you're adopted.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
That would be insane.
That would actually be super
The Realest
sick.
Podcast is the place that we found your brother, your long lost brother or sister. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So what age were you when you got adopted?
I was 2 days. 2 days after I was born.
Wow.
Yeah. So as fast as legally possible in Las Vegas. So.
Wow. You're from Nevada.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And are your parents from Nevada or are they from Washington and found?
No, they're actually both from the East Coast.
Wow. Okay.
But they were working with an agency that was down in here.
Gotcha.
And so yeah, they just kind of swooped me up. Then we moved to Washington.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What state over on the east side?
Yeah. So they're from Massachusetts and Vermont.
Oh wow.
Yes.
And do you know how they met?
Yeah, they met through like a mutual friend.
Okay.
One of my moms did her graduate, actually got her doctorate in Vermont.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Gotcha. So I think that's
a Massachusetts to Vermont.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So she went to college up there, and then
met there through some mutual friend, something like that.
Gotcha. Like a college type thing, or just like see him at a bar.
Who knows?
The
really
specifics?
Don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I mean, it's interesting. Like, my parents met for like a dating app, had their first date at Chili's. You know, it's just
so sweet.
like, I know.
That's
it's
actually
just like,
so sweet.
It's just like a cool, like, little story, you know, that you're like, well, like, that's so cute, you know? And then we were like joking around last week, like when we were at my birthday, over at Vasqueros. Great Mexican restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And we were talking about like my mom's email because she forgot her old email password, and we were joking. She's like, that wasn't even my first one. I forgot the password to the other one too. Like when she first had it, it was like Tacoma Crazy. I was like, Mom, what are you on? Like, that's your first email?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And
bad choice.
Yeah, my dad's is pretty easy. I'm not gonna say it on
sure.
Yeah, obviously. I don't want people
sending emails to your dad.
Yeah. But I mean, my dad's pretty easy. He's had it since like, he joked that he had it since the 80s. I was like, the 80s? I'm like, I'm pretty sure that timeline doesn't work.
That can't be true.
I'm like, are you an early adopter? I mean, surely enough, he was an early adopter because he's a surveyor.
Oh, sure.
So they use email quite frequently, or at least computing. You know, they're on the computer when it was, you know, being kind of invented back then.
Yeah, getting developed at the time.
Yes. I know Steve Jobs was like, computer. Bill Gates, computer. I'm like, okay. Like, my dad's like, oh, an email. That's kind of cool. Like, and I think, he has a Hotmail, so he's had that one forever.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's sick.
Yeah, I have a Hotmail too. I mean, when I first made it, it was the only one that I knew.
Yeah.
Other than like Gmail.
Yeah.
You know, my dad also had like a Yahoo. I also had a Yahoo. Like, it was just weird because it was all I knew. You know, I mean, nowadays people are like, Hotmail? Like, why do you still use that? We have Outlook these days. I'm like,
that is true. People have this weird territory over email.
Like the at. Like
the at. Yeah. If it's like at Yahoo, like, if I had an at Yahoo and I emailed someone, they'd email me back saying, I don't trust you. So, but like, if it's gmail.com, outlook.com, if it's Outlook, they think you're a business person.
Yes.
If it's Gmail, they think that you're with it.
You're young.
You're young. Yeah.
You got like a YouTube account or something.
You're
running a podcast.
Google Duo or whatever.
Room. Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I mean, it was all I knew. You know, and I think there's some like weird perception. You know, because I imagine maybe growing up before you even knew that like maybe a mom and dad, like a guy and a girl, were like the normal. Or like something more traditional. Yeah. You know, and so like for me, like, sometimes I just don't know, and it's just the reality for some people, you know? Like,
I think it was interesting because, I mean, when you're in school, right, the things that you learn, the people that you meet, you learn
so many new
you just
things.
notice that that's what's normal. So I could tell that it was different.
Gotcha.
But I think at the same time, it made it so that I didn't have an expectation of what a marriage or a couple is supposed to look like, right?
Yeah.
To me, it was just that it's two people and they end up having a kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think when you kind of grow up in that space, it doesn't really end up being that you think every couple is supposed to be gay or lesbian or whatever.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that society's constructed right now, you just realize, oh, it's kind of whatever it's supposed, what it is.
Whatever it is. Yeah. You know, it's just two people in love who have a kid.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
Yeah. And like, you know, some people get surrogates, you know, or like an egg donated, you know, especially like adoption, like you're adopted. So like, that's another form, you know, so there's so many different ways that people can have a child and become a family.
Yeah. 100%.
You know, I think there's some type of tradition for certain things, and then there's certain different ways that there is a family, you know?
Yeah,
absolutely. Some families aren't even by blood,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we had Roderick Fisher, who was a track star football athlete. He went down to Wazoo, and he had a lot of trouble growing up through, especially out his middle school, early high school.
Sure.
And so, like, in the Remember the Titans, I don't know if you know how that movie goes.
Yeah.
Where, like, the athlete comes to the coach and says, like, hey, I'm in a troublesome time. The coach ends up adopting him and becoming their child. That's how that went.
Wow.
And so, like, they became a family,
Wow.
It's not always by just that blood, you become a family in so many different ways, and so I think, like, especially you have that unique kind of lens that it's more or less just two people, and I think that's very powerful, because I think, especially growing up, like, we're so naive kids, and especially back then it wasn't so I wouldn't say taboo, but it wasn't just like 80% this and then 20% that,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just like, it's more commonplace now, I would say. And I wouldn't say it was taboo back then, like, who cares really? There's a lot of people that get adopted, a lot of people that have two moms, two dads, or whatever you want to call them, mom or dad.
Exactly.
And so, I think you have a very unique lens when it comes to that, and just a different way of looking at it, especially from early on.
Yeah,
two
absolutely.
days you had parents that weren't even blood related.
Yeah,
but you're in a family, so it's just a weird dynamic.
Yeah,
that's not so common.
I think it definitely changed. I think it changed the way that I would have viewed just regular relationships too. Yeah. Right. So the friendships that I tried developing, especially at a young age, for me were to, like, try to find other people that I could also call my family.
Gotcha.
Which so like the people who were my closest friends, especially in, like, preschool and kindergarten.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't call them my friends. I called them my brothers and sisters and stuff like that. So I think it's just when you're in that new dynamic, the idea of family isn't really centered around a specific structure. It's more just centered around this idea of love. Yeah. And that somebody's there for you. Yeah. And you can give that to anybody you want.
Absolutely.
So long as you have the capacity for it. And I think I was just in that environment for a really long time. Yeah. So it just became the basis of
especially early on, especially when there's I think family in a broad sense where you're having like 30 to 100 people. Yeah. It's like a community, like we're a family as East Valley. We're a family as the Falls, as the Pirates, like we're a family. Yeah. And it's just like that community building, and I think there may be a different connotation to a larger, but I can kind of get what you're saying with, just those who are around you, like these are my family. These are the people that I love. And these are the people that I care about, whereas family is based on love, not necessarily a certain society norm or a system that people operate, around, you know? And so that's just kind of a bit different, than what I'm normal or used to, like, because I had a mom and a dad, like who knows if I'm adopted? Like, I need to get a DNA test. I don't look anything like my family, like, especially growing up. And it was weird because, like, as an athlete, it's just like, it didn't really like reciprocate, like it's just like, why am I this like really good athlete, or like, why am I good at everything? And like, you kind of learn a little bit, but it still doesn't quite make sense. You maybe have like 3 different puzzles and you're still trying to separate all 3 puzzle pieces. So it was just kind of like that. And it was just like, it just didn't really seem like right. And I never really thought about it twice, that I was like, oh, I'm adopted, because these are my family. Who knows if I'm adopted? Yeah. Like, weird story. My uncle, he's not my actual uncle, but he's married uncle. Okay. He's the one that took not these photos. He's the one that took like the profile photo for the Realest Podcast. Oh, nice. Yeah, he's done a whole bunch of other photos for us and our family. Awesome. So he had a mom, his mom, okay? Okay. So his mom is his mom, and growing up, she thought her dad was her dad. Okay. It's not her dad. Wow. And so she has like a completely other dad that's like somewhere. Wow. I think they live in Texas. Okay. Because that's where like some things popped up on Ancestry, right? Sure. So, I mean, that's weird, right? Like your entire life. Because I think her fake dad, I'll just use that as for reference. He had Alzheimer's. Oh, wow. Which is pretty genetically based, right? And so she was fearful that she was going to get it. Yeah. But once her fake father died, that's when the truth revealed itself on Ancestry and realized that she has like, cousins down in Texas, and Chris has cousins in Texas.
Wow.
And that he has a brother that he didn't even know about in Coeur d'Alene. Like,
whoa.
Yeah, like he grew up in like north central Washington. I don't know why I said south. North central Washington.
Okay, yeah.
So like, I mean, there's not a whole lot of people there. It's not like a big metropolis like Spokane or Seattle or anything on the West Coast. And like that's a pretty small place, And so like fake grandfather has a brother that he doesn't even know about. I think it's a half. I don't know. I don't quite know. And yeah, dude, that was weird, like, and he found this out, like, I think at most a year ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I don't know how they're going to, I think, because, this is how I think Chris was the one that found out.
Okay.
Because my dad for Christmas, in Christmas, he got him a DNA test because he wanted to get a DNA test.
Sure.
So it's weird because, like, I guess my dad's to blame. It's weird. So my dad got Chris a DNA test. He took it, got his results back, and questioned his mom, like, hey, Grandpa, right? Is he your dad? And I don't know. I don't remember. I could be fluffing that if she knew that was her fake dad. Right. I'm pretty sure that's true, that she did not know that her father was her father. Wow. And then, Alzheimer's, she thought, fearful, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then the truth revealed itself. So I don't know how that all worked out because I don't know all the specifics. Like, I just kind of overhear it and just kind of like, oh, that's pretty interesting. I'll bring it up on the podcast. So, yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's just weird. I wonder how many people have some type of quote-unquote fake uncle, dad, brother, sister, mom, cousin.
There has to be like millions.
Yeah.
Like an overwhelming amount.
Yeah. Do you feel like it happens by accident? Like,
I don't know. I think sometimes it happens by accident, but sometimes I know that it is very intentional because I think that for some people, their idea of a family system is this idea that it carries on the stigma of their bloodline. Sure. And so if they have somebody who descends from that, they like disown them in a sense, right? And so then sometimes that can split up a family. Sometimes you have situations where maybe there's a separation, whether that be parents, husband, wife, whatever.
Sure.
Also makes things complicated, and then that can be where that descends.
Yeah.
There's always sometimes these just relational issues that end up to this like weird like structural break. Yeah. So I think it has to happen to so many people.
Yeah. I think the most common thing that I can see it happening is picking up the wrong baby at the hospital.
Yeah.
Like if you get discharged and your child's still in the hospital, they maybe have two kids that look similar. Yeah. And just happen to pick up the wrong one. Especially that was really commonplace when there wasn't really records.
I think that's so insane.
Imagine, especially that was not likely in this case, the one that I just mentioned about my uncle's grandfather. Sure. But like, I imagine that was really commonplace in the 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, early 70s, give or take, and anything before that. Especially when you have two people that look alike who there's no record on them. And then growing up now, we would have pseudo grandparents. Yeah. Because they wouldn't actually be our blood, you know? In a way, like quote unquote blood, whatever makes that a family, whatever. Yeah, exactly. But you're just somebody who either A, doesn't look like you, or A, is not even related to you in any way. And it's just, I think that's so weird to think about. Like, out of all these years, I mean, Chris's mom's got to be, at this point, like 59, 60 at least,
All that time.
I know. Dude, 60 years ago is mid-60s. Yeah. Like, that's insane.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Whoa.
Dude, that's like crazy. Yeah. Like, to think about. Like, even then, like, dude, history is so weird. Like, especially in, like, the day and age that we live in. Like, 20 years ago, like, you're 20, right? Yeah. Okay. Like, I just turned 20, so, like, it was a weird feeling turning 20.
It's very weird.
It's just like, oh, you're not really young anymore, but you're still young compared to everybody older than you, but not younger than you. Yeah. So, like, that was weird, but, like, history is so weird, like, as a whole, especially as, like, a country, even as, like, a whole world. Yeah. Like, even stuff that's happened, like, 15 years ago seems like it's history, like, even though it seems so current. Yeah, right. Like, even, like, 9/11 seems like it was
a long time ago.
Yeah,
I guess it kind of is.
I mean, it's 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
This will be its 20th anniversary this year.
Yeah.
So like, my parents, my mom and dad, I was only 3 months at the time.
Right.
Like they know where they were when that happened, you know? And it was weird. I saw this like thing on Instagram. It was like the first football game after 9/11. I think it was like the Dallas Cowboys and another team. And like, bro, everyone had like American flag, just waving it around. Wow. You know, dude, it was weird just like how so together we were, you know? And then like, especially last year, that was just kind of like a weird time as like a society, very friction based, you know? And it just caused like maybe division that wasn't so explicitly like, you know, caused, you know, it just kind of like collateral damage type thing.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
And that was even a weird time. It's just like so weird how we, you know, came from 2001 to 2020, and it just seems like everything has flipped its head.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. I think that what unifies people more is a common enemy rather than a common goal.
Yeah.
So I think with 9/11 that became a common enemy kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. To a point.
Yeah. To this extent, and people banded together against that enemy.
Yeah.
But with COVID, they didn't necessarily look at the virus as the enemy. It more became like, well, maybe the government is because of the restrictions.
Yeah. And like, what is that goal? Like,
yeah,
you know, like,
exactly.
You know, and especially with like BLM and Black Lives Matter, even that was like a huge thing.
Yeah.
And as like you said, is it the enemy or is it the goal?
Yeah.
You know, and I think maybe the enemy was something that united a few, or we'll say a group.
Yeah.
And then the goal was something that united another, but those were in friction. And so it was just like, it was just this weird limbo of just like, what do we do? You know, like, do we look back at our history and blame all that? You know, like, what can we do now? You know, like, do we look forward or do we look back to kind of be like, this is what it was like, it's still affecting us today?
Yeah.
Something like that, you know, like as a person, you know, like, I'm not racist, you know, like, I'm not like going down the streets and doing things that are you know, that's not my intention, you know, and doing things that are, you know, out of character or anything like that.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
it's just like me as a person. But then when you say like, oh, you're a white man, you have no say. It's just like such a weird thing,
hard.
You know,
it's hard. Yeah. I think I think it is very difficult to be an ally and, but do it in a way where you always feel good.
Yeah.
Because
and not guilty of like something that happened like 30, 50, 60 years ago. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Because even like if you're not intentionally racist or whatever, right? If you're just kind of lumped in that group of oppression, it's just hard. You can be as well-intentioned as you want, but just the way that things are just might not allow for those things to come out. Or it just might not be at the forefront of somebody's mind. Yeah, right?
And it might even be disvalued because of you're that group, you know, like whether if you're politically left or politically right, you know, no matter what, even if you feel moderate, you know, you feel more like the libertarian where you feel like some way left, some way right in certain aspects, you know. It's so weird because no matter who you're placed with, the other person is going to point fingers and blame you, know, for no matter what reason, you know? And it's just like so weird, especially like no matter how good a community's intention is or a group's intention is, you know, there's always going to be people that are at arm's length going to resist you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just like this security guard that's like at your throat, you know? Like the bouncer is like not letting you into the club because of certain things that are either out of your control or just like things that are more or less society driven, you know? And it's just so weird because like I'm such an individualized, independent person, you know, like who cares what other people do? You know, I'm all about intention, and that's my intention, you know, like my intention as a YouTuber and as a content creator is to entertain, you know, and I base it off my why. I want to give people the confidence to do the things that they want to do, you know? And somebody else's, like, whatever they do may be different than something that I maybe agree with. But no matter what, I am always here to entertain and give people that confidence to do the things that they want to do.
Yeah,
you know? So
absolutely.
it's just like, no matter what, if I disagree, I'm willing to agree to disagree. You know, like I think there is also like a lot of people look at it as like some are winners, some are losers in like more of like a capitalistic state. You know, and that's like the I guess point that you have such contrast. You know, we have a wide range of people, especially in the United States, the land of the free. You know, there's a lot of people that come here because whatever is going on from where they came from is not good. You know, like this is the place that they want to come, even though we have our own problems. Yeah. You know, like think about it like you're the jolly-go-lucky person and everyone comes to you for like relationship advice or they're going through a hard time, right? You still got your own problems. That's basically like these different nations of people coming, you know, going to the United States. Yeah. Because they have their own problems at home. Sure. And they're coming here for A through Z, you know? You know, we still got our own problems as a nation, you know? And I think to a point, there's also a lot of the people driving this wildebeest of the United States that are also wide spectrum, that it's really hard to either A, have a common enemy, or two, have a common goal. Yes. I was watching Big Brother, and one of the Big Brother's a TV show, if you don't know. There was one person, especially this was happening during last summer. So there was still kind of a lot of friction going on. Like this is June, July. So still some prevalent problems. And one person was like, we have the same goal as a nation or whatever, but we're taking different vessels to get there. Yes. You know? And so we have different means of getting to the same goal, you know? Yes. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that the United States is one of the most diverse places in the world. And because of that, it has a lot of potential. Yeah. If you have a really diverse body, but I think like the intention is that we have a diverse body of people. We give everybody a voice. Everybody listens to each other. And then subsequently we have the most holistic and best solutions, right? Yeah. Like we would become the best nation because we have the most differentiating minds coming to one point. So we're taking in all this information, all these ideas. But that doesn't really happen, right? Yeah. So there's just so many differing ideas, and there's just so many aspects of an individual and their environment that makes them who they are, that it's really difficult to navigate that as well. Diversity is really important, but diversity is also very volatile. Yes. If you have two people with differing religious backgrounds, it can take years for just those individuals to be able to be on the same page. Yeah. But if you think about it on a nationwide scale, when we're trying to do things like elect representatives to try to speak for massive people's groups, it's hard. That is very difficult to do. And I wish it was easier. Yeah, yeah. I really do.
And it's not like one size fits all. You know, that's the hard part to kind of navigate. One thing that I do, maybe not admire, it's just like the wrong word. States. Yeah. We have so many, we have a governor, they represent our state. You know, you have a district within that state, so it ladders down and it filters down. And obviously it filters up and it builds up like a pyramid. You know, you have your people at the bottom, you know, you have your local representatives, your state representatives, and then your overall government, your federal government. And so like that's something that I somewhat like, just because, you know, people here, we have a general consensus idea of what we want as a city or as a county or as a region, or like District 5. I think we're District 5 in Spokane and little neighboring areas. Yeah. That idea I semi-like, you know, but to a point, I feel like if we separate all 50 states into its own quote unquote country, we may have some problems, you know? Exactly. So I get there's a federalism and what's the other one? There's another one. Federalism is like the federal government, your three systems there. I forget what the other one was for like more state, you know, local type things. just giving freedom to them, you know. And I think, and I think to a point, like COVID was handled well in that manner because like states like Wyoming and Hawaii,
they just
Alaska,
did whatever.
They're fine, you know. Like they got fine, you know. They had their trouble sometimes, but once they got over that, we're good, you know. Where it wasn't like one overarching. Imagine if somebody, okay, this kind of seems ironic because like Russia. Like, imagine you had Russia overrule the entirety of Russia, which it does.
Yeah.
You may have some conflict, you know? Yeah. So it's just like, it's really weird because it's like here we have so much freedom and so much movability. And like you said, it's very volatile because the way that we set up everything. You know, there's so much stuff. There's like so many different ways that people can like do things as like pass legislation, you know, or something that's like, especially like these COVID bills. There's like 890 things in them, you know, like I'm not going to get, like personally, I'm not going to get anything for it. My parents might.
Sure.
But like, there are so many things that they just start flooding in there. It's just like, bro, like maybe the UFO thing was cool.
That was sick.
Yeah. That I was like, okay, I don't really, it's not like it's going to really hurt anybody. Yeah. You know, it's just like, okay, we'll throw that in there. You know, I like it. Some of them, I don't know the entire list of things, but I was like, UFOs. You know, I'm not mad about it. Who can be mad about that? Like, I mean, if they do exist, I was like, cool, you know? Like, I was watching Joe Rogan's podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh,
Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's a really cool guy.
So cool.
I know, dude. I love him. Cool. I love him. He's and especially like his Star Talk and his TikToks. He's like, you know, like it's just stuff that like I would never learn, but he knows. So like, I'm glad he's disseminating it. And so I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Probably never remember it, but cool. And he was like, when they first released it, like UAPs, you know, phenomenons, whatever they stand for. Like phenomenons is the P instead of the O. Sure. Like object to phenomenon, or UFAs, or like some weird stuff like that. Who knows what the thing's gonna be next? UFC, like these aliens are gonna be starting like fighting in the octagon.
Each other. Yeah, no, that would be sick.
They're gonna have like crowds of just aliens, like alien spaceships, and they're just gonna battle it out, hitting each other. It'd be so weird.
No, that'd be sick. What do you mean? I think if they were like, there's like an alien UFC.
Yeah.
You know how the octagon's like 3-dimensional? They'd have the fourth dimension that they're also fighting.
Yeah. They're like teleporting. Like, they're like Portal 2. You're just like hop up a blue little portal.
Hop on the other side. Yeah, exactly.
It'd be weird.
Simple as that.
Yeah. That'd be really cool though. But I was like watching that and it was just like weird because it's like they're UFOs. They just call it these weird things like just to kind of like mislead or misdirect them. Sure. You know, and I was just like, okay. I'm like, I understand a little bit more. You know, it's not like I wasn't super duper excited that like UAPs were flying around. I'm like, they're still UFOs to me, you know? Like,
yeah, exactly.
And then hopefully the UFC league, you know, Dana White might be in shambles after this.
Dana White might be crushed when he hears about the alien fight league.
I know. He's going to have to take his next fights to like the sky.
Yeah.
Not Abu Dhabi.
Not to like Andromeda or something.
Yeah. The closest star other than the sun. I remember one time. No, that's Andromeda is definitely not the closest star. It's Alpha Centauri. I remember we were at the falls.
Yeah,
like a science room, space room. They have an astronomy room. So you can look up and blah, blah, blah. And whoever knows what they're talking about has a pointer. And it's like pointing to these stars in the sky that we'd see. The room's dark. I remember it's like, does anyone know what the closest star is to Earth? And my friend Jacob, this is funny. So like, I'm like, Alpha Centauri. And Jacob, like half a second later, the sun. You're right, the sun. I was just like, I feel so dumb. Like I had one shot. Like I guess I got the second closest star other than the sun.
Unlucky.
I know. I was just like, she made it seem like, yeah, you're fudging dumb. You're dumb. It's the sun. You're right, the sun. It's right here. Like, oh, I felt so dumb. I was just like, oh. And Jacob's like 6 seats over to my left. I'm like, good job, Jacob.
Good job. Good job.
I'm like, damn.
Wow. Big star guy.
I know. I like astronomy. I took astronomy my winter quarter.
Yeah, I did too.
Do you work on quarters or semesters?
We work on semesters.
Okay.
But we have like a accelerated January semester that's optional.
Okay.
Yes. So it's just a month and you take one intensive course.
Oh, it's just like entirely that.
Entirely that is 3 hours every day.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you do that in
January? Yeah, I did.
Astronomy?
I took astronomy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I loved it.
It's so cool. I loved it too.
So cool.
It's just like cool, like learning like your zenith. You like look up and like, wow, I know what I know what that term is. Or like, I do like, oh, when they coordinate like these areas in the sky, and I'm just like, whoa. I'm like, oh, I know what that is. I'm like, why is the sun so low? Oh, it's the third quarter. Or I look at the sun phase. I'm like, oh, that's a waning gibbous, waxing crescent. I'm like, oh, like I know these terms.
So sick.
Yeah, and then like you learn more about the what is it? The zodiac signs. You know, how they created them like way back then, but they're all changed now. But like anybody who follows it, just like I guess either doesn't know that or care. Like it's June, it's Gemini season, and then it's Cancer, then Leo, Virgo, whatever.
Yeah,
Capricorn.
exactly.
And I'm just like, do you think that like a lot of people really base themselves on that stuff?
I think some people do. I think that I don't know. I think that's a form of spirituality for a lot of people, because I can see how it would make sense that like I don't know, the possibility of space and how everything happens for some people does not seem coincidental, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so the idea of the stars and being born at a certain time may also not be coincidental. Right?
Sure, yeah.
And so I think that's where that idea of like zodiac signs and like fitting certain molds kind of can make sense in those respects.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So personally, I don't necessarily believe it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, sure. I'm just like, I made a song named Gemini because I was born in June, you know, like it has no significance to my life whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, and I think especially when you see maybe like an Instagram post or like something that I think it's like either A, you try and fit what already exists into that.
Yeah.
Or like pick and choose type thing.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like fully, like, does it fully, especially when there's so many different takes about it.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, maybe there is some oddly being behind that, you know, some motive behind that.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, like I had like an epiphany last week. I was just like, bro, we're so small on a grand scale of things.
Yeah, pretty tiny.
I mean, like 91 trillion light years across our entire observable universe thus far.
Yeah.
And to think about it, it only gets bigger as we speak.
Yeah, nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and it's just like weird. Like, I'm like, dude, how do we get metal? How do people like make boats? The pyramids. Like, the pyramids are like the biggest like question mark on life as we know it. And I'm just like, it's weird because I was also listening to something that was like, we're all living somebody's idea. Like, dude, I'm just like, imagine back then, you're Julius Caesar about to go lead your army into battle. And imagine he said, eh. He just said, eh. Like, nah.
Yeah.
You know, Napoleon Bonaparte, eh. Alexander the Great.
Yeah, wow.
Victoria, whatever she's from Russia. Her name is Victoria. She was just kind of like a badass.
Menace.
Yeah, dude, she was... Yeah, she was pretty cool. I don't remember like the, you know, like Alexander the Great.
Yeah,
you know, I don't know what that. It might have been Victoria something.
Okay.
Victoria the Badass.
Okay. Yeah.
Or the Menace. I like that.
The Menace.
I like that. And just what about she just the pyramids too hard.
Yeah,
then it happened. Dude, it's so weird.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think. It's crazy to think.
Like, there's like almost 8 billion people on this planet. And it's just like, I get nervous going to ask somebody to go take a photo for a video.
Yeah.
It's just so awkward to me. And it's just like, I get really not nervous, but I get like, not anxiety. Like, I don't get like crippling anxiety. You know, some people do. I don't really understand it because I don't, you know, like maybe I get like some type of nerves that are anxiety, but like, I'm not like, oh man, I have anxiety. I need to take a step away from YouTube. You know, I don't really get that.
Okay.
Like I'm very socially awkward. I like, and it's happened more and more as I've gotten out of high school, because in high school I talked to people like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Because I maybe either had like some status as ASB president, or like, you know, like as an athlete, or just as like a student.
Yeah.
You know, and like I'd go talk to like new people like every day.
Yeah.
Now I'm just like, I'm just a random YouTuber. I want to take photo with you. Can I take photo with you? And I'm just like, I don't say it like that, but like, it's just like, oh, I just get so much like, I get so awkward.
Yeah,
like, and
it's
I just
different.
Like don't know what to say. I'm like, I was editing the video today, and I was just like, hey, excuse me. I always go, hey, excuse me, my friend, because I try and establish like a friendly basis. Like I'm not like, hey, you prick, like you come here. Like I'm always like, hey, my friend, I'm doing this YouTube video where and I start stumbling over my words, and I'm just like, I'm doing this YouTube video. I need YouTube video 1 hour 10 photo. I need to take 10 photos with strangers, and I'm just like, how do I make this seem comprehensible?
Not weird.
Yeah, incomprehensible to this person. Nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
So I always go like, hey, I have an hour to take a photo with 10 strangers. So like, hopefully that they're like, oh, he only has an hour. Photo doesn't really seem like that much. I got to maybe feel a little bit more obligated.
Yeah.
I was watching like a YouTuber, Ryan Trahan.
Yeah.
And I love him, dude. I found him through Colin and Samir because he was on their podcast or show. And I was like, oh, dude, this is sick. And he has like one where he's like the penny for a week.
Yeah.
And I was like, watching him just like ask people and getting rejected, I'm just like, oh my God, I know that
there's
exact
no
feeling.
Shot. There's no shot I could ever do something like that.
It's so hard for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe I just need to get into the groove of it. But like getting into that groove is so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me. Like I just like in my head, I'm like, okay, I like this next person I see walk past, I'm gonna ask him. And then they walk past, I never ask them. I'm just like still thinking about it. It's so hard.
Yeah, it's difficult because like I think that like the difference in high school and now is that in high school, if people knew the status that you probably had, right? But when you're in the real world and an adult, no one really knows. And even if you did, they probably don't care because it doesn't involve them.
Yeah.
So it just makes it so much different.
Yeah. And it's so weird because like I want to go up to people like eating. But I'm like, they're eating. Like, I don't want to, like, disturb them.
Yeah.
I just, like, I could go ask and be like, hey, can you put down your macaroni and cheese for a sec? And I'm just like, no, I don't think I want to be. I don't want to intrude on people's day-to-day or, like, what they're already doing. So I just get people walking by or whatnot.
Yeah.
And there was one, like, especially if you're putting yourself out there, whether you're busking or doing, like, little side things. Like, this one guy, he was making balloon animals for kids because there was like a big event down there. So
sweet.
I was like, okay, this guy seems like my guy.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to mind. Like he's already kind of putting himself out there. We're kind of on the same level.
Yeah.
I'm just more active in my movement. He's just making balloon animals.
Yeah.
So like I'm going around. I'm like, hey, my friend, I'm doing YouTube video. I'm trying to take photos. 1 hour. Like not like that again, but, and he's like, yeah, dude, I love to. I'm like, oh, sick. And so I'd like take the photo and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I'm like, I find it really awkward for me. And maybe some part of it is like being protective, like asking females.
Yeah.
Like, because like whether they may think that I'm like trying to come on to them or like, it's just like, it's a really weird way to navigate.
Yeah.
And a weird stream to navigate.
Yes.
Because it's like, I know my fans aren't going to think that. But I don't want the people that I'm asking to think that I'm like either trying to hit on them, get with them, or like trying to embarrass them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's just a weird.
Yeah, you see, and I think that's probably what's going to keep being difficult about engaging with people publicly that you do not know.
Yeah.
That you just never know what happened in their life or what is happening to them then. And so I think you're already taking good steps, right? Just like trying to establish this thing like, hey, my friend, like trying to make it seem like, or make it really obvious what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because some people have built fear around strangers for a very good reason.
Yeah.
So that's tough. That's going to be, you'll figure that out though.
Yeah. And I think, doing like meet and greets.
Yeah.
But they're already my fans. So it's like, it feels like acceptable to, like approach somebody.
Yeah.
Like in that way, that's like, they're my fans, like they understand what I'm doing, like, whereas a lot of these strangers in this case, like females maybe don't know. And especially like me being a male, I'm not super duper intimidating. Like I'm pretty small. Like I'm not like a big guy or like, like I don't give off the vibe that I'm like going to hurt you in any way.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to like do something that you don't want me to do, And so like, it's just like, again, it's a weird path to navigate. And like you said, I think there is some protective, way to go about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if there's a guy and a girl, I'd probably be a little bit more inclined to.
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
Like if it's like maybe, the one hardest thing that's like the hardest thing is if it's an individual female.
Yeah.
If there may be two girls, I might be inclined to like ask them for like that photo that's like, I need a photo, 1 hour, 10 strangers type thing.
Yeah.
I'd be a little bit more inclined to. Or if there's just like a group, you know, like the more niche it gets, I'm like, okay, kind of just back off. Like there was one girl who was taking photos and I was like, I thought about it because she also has a camera, like common ground.
Yeah.
Common ground, I feel like I'm okay. I decided not to. And maybe if they're like 50,
yeah,
like age also kind of comes into a factor.
Definitely.
Because if they're like older, like they're probably either don't care, don't even know what YouTube is. They're thinking I'm gonna take a photo on like some like flash photography type thing, and then the photo's gonna print out. I'm like, no, unfortunately not. I'm gonna just take a photo from the video and then post it. So yeah, I mean it's a weird stream to navigate.
Yeah, and it's probably good to err on the side of caution, you know?
Yeah. Safe than sorry type thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't want something 10 years, or not even 10 years, like 2 years, like, oh, he approached me in Riverfront Park and, you know, some odd thing to come out.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is that, like, I think it probably would feel more weird for somebody if you seemed uncomfortable doing it, because then it seemed like there's something on your mind that you know like is going to make them uncomfortable or something, and people pick up on that really easily.
Because if you come in full confidence, like you're about to like go and humiliate yourself, sure, perfect, but just not the time when I was super caught up in like the moment of just trying to even ask people. Like it's so hard.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
you know, and maybe the fear of rejection kind of comes into play, and maybe that's where my mind is with those that like females.
Yeah,
it's just rejection of just like, no, I don't want to take a photo, but it's like, what are they thinking?
Yeah,
and it's like to a point I don't care what people think, but also like I don't want to like be a burden on their time if they're just going to say no anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So like, I mean, there's probably instances in both of our lives where somebody's come super boisterous and loud and energetic, you know, like as a performer or something, you know, and just like, you like, oh, okay. Like this is, this is playful, you know, I understand. But like you said, if you feel awkward or like not confident and there's something on your mind that's making you nervous, you can imagine what they might be thinking.
Exactly.
Know?
Yeah, you pick up on it.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's why Ted Bundy did so good, man. He was confident. See, I don't know.
I honestly believe that because, I don't know, people just pick up on confidence and then feel confident when they see it.
Yeah.
You know?
Because if you feel nervous, you kind of pick up on that and you realize this is nerve-wracking.
Yeah, because I think when you come in with confidence, there's no good way to tell whether or not you're ill-intentioned. Like there's just certain things that you can pick up on.
Yeah.
But I don't know, if you have the personality, if you're flirtatious, whatever, you can mask it, and that's what was really dangerous about it.
Yeah, especially like dude, like it's weird that like, especially with people like murderous like intent, it's just like a weird field that
it's weird.
I can never fully understand it.
Yeah.
I can never fully understand that, like, why? Like do you find joy in it? And like you're studying psychology and sociology, so like I imagine maybe some of that has to do with just kind of how people move and operate, or like you said, a traumatic experience that could lead back to how they act.
Yeah, for some people, it's definitely like mental illness, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like there's just something on the psychological side that's wrong with them that is telling them to kill somebody, or that it's okay to do it, which is why they do it. Or
and maybe if you keep feeding that into your mind, it becomes okay.
Yeah, or for some people, they feel like they have to do it.
Okay.
Right? Like if you had somebody who was murderous intent, and also like a schizophrenic.
Okay, yeah, it's just like two things that...
Yeah, and you just had someone in your mind telling you that you had to do it. It gets to the point where you really just feel like you have to.
Gotcha.
And so that just happens.
Well, yeah, I think that's the same with like depression, you know, like when people are down and feel like everything's against you. Yeah. Like, it's weird because it almost seems like it's reality. Like, we talked about this in the first podcast with John, who's up there. He's on the middle photo. We were talking about like people saying things that were either trying to get you down, or just trying to like hurt you. And it's just like, it felt weird because at a point in my life when somebody would say something mean, it felt like that was what everybody else thought.
Yes.
It's such a weird dynamic. And especially with so many heads that have so many thoughts and ideas, and especially when you're maybe not getting all that feedback that's positive all the time, it feels maybe sometimes that the bad is the only feedback that you got.
Yeah.
So it must be true. And you keep feeding yourself like, oh man, that is true. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. People are actually much more likely to retain and take in negative things that are happening to them, rather than be able to take in and then stick with positive things.
Okay.
For some reason, that's just very natural for human beings. And so because of that, you have to be very intentional about understanding the positive things that are happening in your life.
Yeah.
Because like there's this thing, it's like 5 compliments need to happen for every like one complaint you hear about you in order for things to settle.
It's like
out.
a 5-to-1 ratio. That's like, it feels like, okay, maybe that bad thing isn't so bad if I'm got this chunk of good things.
Yes, because our brains are just very powerful, right? If we hear something negative, then we can get into this like cyclical thinking.
Yeah.
That if this person has this negative perception of me, what other things are happening that are negative?
That are unsaid.
Yeah. That are unsaid. Because we tend to focus on these things. We tend to focus on things that we are concerned about so that we can fix it. When you hear something negative, you think, whoa, if that person had something to say, what else is going on?
It's like something's wrong with me. I need to fix this.
Exactly. And so then it just kind of keeps going. But if you hear something positive, then you probably don't have to think about it more because it's positive. You're like, oh, well, thank you. Great.
You don't have to fix anything.
Yeah, nothing I have to fix. I get to go on with my day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think that's a part of it. Negative things stick to people much easier than positive things do.
Yeah, because last Monday, I mean, dude, I don't know, it felt like a weird day for me.
Yeah.
And you had reached out, and it just like, I don't know, it just like changed the entire environment of like, I guess like that day and that week, you know, because like I don't know, it was just like a weird time, and I don't get down very often.
Sure.
And maybe it was just like, especially when you get into a habit of like looking maybe at numbers or something, maybe for the sake of the hypothetical of just like seeking a certain validation or hitting a certain mark.
Absolutely.
Based on that validation.
Sure.
And it was weird because like maybe I posted the first podcast the day before, and I was like, okay, like it's doing well, it's doing great, you know, a lot of good comments. And it's just like, maybe hopefully the next episode goes well. And I was just like thinking about this entire summer and just like the videos that I want to do. And it's just like, oh, like, can I do it? You know, like I was more just in my head. It wasn't like an outside force that was, you know, saying like, you can't do this.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, just take a step back, you know, like, you know, people enjoy what you're doing. And sometimes I just need to feed myself that, you know, of just like, okay, people enjoy what I'm making and enjoy the content that I'm doing, you know, because it was hard at one point, and that's the hard part, you know, because it's like, okay, you know, like there's a big void that I need to fill, especially without track now, and it's just like maybe not my usual, and I can maybe relate that back, especially last year when people were just like, sorry, you can't hang out with your friends, there's this thing going around, can't see your loved ones, you know, like your usual, and especially having the ability to, you know. And so that was just kind of like, I guess to a point, kind of similar to that. It was just like, okay, we don't have our normal schedule routine that we've normally done. And it's just like, how do I fill this? It's like, should I be doing stuff right now? Should I be doing that? Like to better myself or like better my YouTube channel? And your DM really helped. And again, it eventually led to today, you know, like it eventually led you onto the podcast, which is really awesome. So again, thank you for coming on.
Of course.
And early adoption of this. So like when we look back, when we're at 104 episodes, you can look back 100 episodes ago and be like, Samson Irish-Lodge was on here, you know? So I'm like really excited just about like this entire project. And it was just like I was like thinking, I'm like, oh, like video, like I like my most recent video got like it's at 450 views. And I'm like, I'm still happy with that. You know, like I understand maybe not, especially since I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, absolutely.
7 years. Like there's people who are still subscribed. They don't even know they're subscribed or don't even use their YouTube anymore or have a new one. So like I completely understand it. So like maybe I have 2,000 subscribers, but not everyone watches. Like I completely understand that. And you know, and for some, maybe it's harder to realize, but when it comes down to it, I was just like, okay, like, that's a good video. You know, like, I didn't flop. Like, that's a good video, you know? And it's just like, how do I make the next one better?
Yes.
How do I make the next one more entertaining, more engaging?
Yeah.
You know, because it's a completely different feel, because it's not like me sitting down being inspirational or motivational.
Yeah.
And more somber.
Yeah.
It's like this next video that's coming out is like more upbeat, very like, it's just a different tone. And it's just like, absolutely. I think back at like the videos that I made, and I'm just like, oh, I could have done that better, you know? And I even thought about it today. I was like, I'm like, I don't have the shot that I need. Like, crap. Like, I'm just like I like clench my fist. I'm like, like, come on. Like, you know, like, I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. You can put that out there, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, it's not going to be perfect right now, but if you can still develop that sense of story or complication or like experience, being an entertainer, like that's the biggest thing you can do, no matter if it's like what you wanted or not. Mm-hmm. Your audience is not going to know what it was like if you don't express that, you know? So absolutely. Like, if you don't get that shot, it's fine. It's not the end of the world, you know? It's just learning and taking that to the next time that you come around. So just absolutely. A weird, and I imagine, especially with people who, you know, are down on themselves or feeling like things that are out of their control, you know, especially since you're learning a lot about that. Psychology is a big thing. My sister thought about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. I don't know if, I mean, she's young, she's 15. So she's like, oh, that seems cool. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I first got the idea of doing psychology or something with the mind when I was in like 7th grade.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it sticks with her, it'll stick.
Yeah. Was there something that was like, yeah, I'm going to do it, or did it just kind of come and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool, and then kind of kept feeding that it was cool?
Yeah. I think what ended up doing it was that at the time that I was like thinking about like the brain and psychology, I was like doing coaching and teaching for Taekwondo. And I was getting to work with like so many different groups, whether that was like adults or like really young kids. And it was just kind of realizing that, wow, these are fundamentally these very, very different people. And so I have to teach them in a way that's very different in order for them to do the exact same thing, right? So like the comments that I give to one kid about the exact same move are not going to work for the next or for the adult in the next class. Yeah. And so I think that kind of interested me in like, well, why is that? And then I realized that I really just enjoy helping people and talking to people, and kind of giving people a safe space. There's so much value in being able to be somewhere and actually feeling safe to express yourself. Yeah. And to develop a relationship with yourself. I think something that's really hard about living in general is that when you are trying to think for yourself and develop your own identity, it is mostly based on what other people are pulling from you and the relationships you have. Yeah. And it's good because it gives you a more holistic view of yourself, so you're not just thinking on your own. But sometimes it gets hard to think about yourself, and it's hard to spend time with your emotions and know what that means for you, not for what it looks like to somebody else for you to feel that way. Yeah. So therapy allows for that space. And so I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah. And what's the end goal with the mind? Like, or not as the mind to a point, but like your education as, you know, and what you want to do with psychology and sociology.
Yeah. So I think, so right now my primary focus is working with couples. Okay. I'm really, that's something I've always really, really wanted to do, because there's a lot of value in relationships, and especially in families. Yeah. But right now, something that's piqued my interest is working with minority groups. Okay. And mental health. Right now, psychology does not do a great job of representing minority groups at all. Sure. Because all the research that we do has to involve participants that are from majority groups, because those are really the only areas we pull from. Gotcha. And so a lot of diagnoses or ideas that we have behind certain things are pretty much only really accurate for white males. Sure. A really good example of this is to diagnose somebody with autism. Something that psychologists look at is eye contact. Okay. But in some Eastern Asian cultures, having that kind of prolonged eye contact is seen as disrespectful. Gotcha. So if you had some kid who's coming from an Eastern Asian culture who might be having developmental issues, as someone says, and then you have the psychologist who's looking at it, they're like, yes, they're not giving me eye contact. They probably have autism. Okay. That might not be accurate. But then it goes on their record. Every other psychologist, doctor, school will treat them that way.
Gotcha.
And so a kid ends up becoming their diagnosis rather than who they are as an individual.
And their own holistic self.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Or their culture or their environment.
Yeah.
And so the therapy I'd like to do would be able to service those people.
Okay.
So I've looked at performance enhancement psychology.
Gotcha.
And that just pretty much means you're a mental health counselor for a sports team in a high school, middle school, professional, whatever.
Absolutely.
And I think that way I'd be able to work with minority groups and them not have to be too concerned with insurance or with paying, because instead of it being, oh no, I have to go to therapy outside of school and stuff and I don't have the resources, it's just a part of practice and getting better.
Yeah.
So that's some of the things I'm thinking about.
For sure.
Thinking
Definitely
about being a professor, all that stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a master's, bachelor, doctorate?
Yeah. So I think it's most likely that I'll go for a doctorate, but at least a master's.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. At least 6.
At least 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's really cool. I didn't know that it was mainly based on like majority, and maybe that was just the way that was done, or there's certain things around that works. But like you said, I mean, there's so many diverse things, like you said, culturally based, where things can either be disrespectful or like as the one that you mentioned with that prolonged eye contact.
Yeah,
it could be seen as disrespectful, but then that's also a diagnosis of autism.
Yeah,
so it's really difficult to kind of like what we were talking earlier, it's really hard to have a one size fits all.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just maybe there's some misrepresentation and then maybe diagnoses of that. And
absolutely.
And I don't know to an extent what that problem looks like. Because it seems like it can be very niche based to a point and to an extent. But that is really, really interesting just to kind of hear. Because it's, we have so many different ways of moving, and like you said, where that holistic self is something that we maybe need to value a bit more or just understand more, because especially growing up, we're so young, this is all that we know. I wonder what it would look like being homeschooled for your 18 years to what it would be like through the more traditional being at school for those 18 years.
Absolutely.
Like, what would that look like? Because maybe there's not so much outside voice that is coming in that maybe influences you in a way. So like, what do you think that would be like, having somebody who doesn't have those outside voices?
And I think that's kind of the issue when you take psychology and only focus on an individual and their symptomology. There's so much value and so much importance in the environment and the system that you're a part of. And so it's like, are you going to take somebody who's homeschooled and has had a much different life, you put them in the therapy room, you see that they don't have great, I don't know, interpersonal skills.
Like social skills.
Exactly. And so are you going to give them something like depression with something on top of like an anxiety disorder? Right? Because they just seem to be low energy, or they can't seem to carry conversations, or they just seem to be too into their head. Or is that just because, well, they're not necessarily around people that much? What does it really do giving someone that diagnosis if it has nothing to do with the environment they're in? Maybe they just need somebody to talk to. Maybe they need a therapist to help them develop this goal to make more friends, and then all of a sudden those things go away. Right? So I think that's kind of where I'm at. I feel like that environmental focus should at least be the first thing you look at before you decide to give somebody a diagnosis.
And especially like socioeconomic, and what that environment's like, maybe parent household, what that's like, income and socioeconomic, and just different variables. Like when we were in leadership, like that was something that we really looked at. And for me, at least, I can't say that. I mean, it's so wide range. I don't know if anybody else was in the same wavelength, because this is just me thinking for myself that, like, when we see people from different schools, like we get people from Kent Meridian, from Bellevue. These people have two different socioeconomic areas. And where are you from? You're from Everett? Okay. A little bit north from there. Joe Hoffman?
Yes.
From Cascade. Yeah. I love Joe.
Love that guy.
So we work together on the state board of AWSL. So that stands for Association of Washington Student Leaders. Mm-hmm. And we worked on the state board, and he was on the board because we were working with the State Board of Education.
Okay.
That was a term.
Yeah.
And so he was on the State Board of Education, and we kind of worked together on the state board for leadership. So education was really big because certain schools may not have the funding or just have generally a low impoverished population of students.
Yeah.
So like that entire environment is way different than somebody who maybe has it a little bit easier with financial burden.
Yeah.
You know, and so like Bellevue, I use Bellevue as a hypothetical just because they are pretty rich there.
Yeah.
And so like when we were at leadership camp, you know, like I'm going to treat people the exact same. You know, treat me with respect, I'll treat you with respect. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're wearing some really nice like button up or like, you know, you look like a jock. I don't care. Like I'm going to treat you just like you want to be treated, you know?
Exactly.
And I would hope the same in return, you know? And like I said, this is something that's just very personal. Like it's not, I can't say if there's 20 other people that think the same.
Yeah.
So it's like you see a whole bunch of drastically different people.
Yeah.
And especially think about it. Like you probably get the people who can afford to go. Like,
exactly.
That's a whole different kind of beast to even talk about of people beyond there, you know, thinking about like, these are the people who can go and are in leadership.
Yeah.
You know, to think about those who aren't in leadership and who couldn't go, you know, like luckily for us, even though East Valley is like 80% low income.
Wow.
So we definitely get a lot of kids who come to school with their pajamas, come to school with the same shirt for the third day in a row, you know, haven't really worn deodorant or because they don't have any, you know, haven't used it in a while. Even the shower, hygienic type things, you know, that's pretty standard, you know? And so like for us, we're the ones that can go, you know, like, and that's the thing, like we need to understand like who we represent. And even with what we were talking about early on is like, how do we represent the ideas that are beyond us?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. 100%.
It's huge, especially in such a diverse country like we have.
Yeah.
So it's just like a weird combination of like, okay, how do we fix an issue that's like, we can't relate to, you know, like I've been well off with showering, you know, hygienic. I don't go to school in my pajamas because it's not the only clothes that I have.
Yes.
So it's like, how do we represent and how can we lend a helping hand to those who may need it?
Yeah.
That's all that they know, you know?
I think that the hardest part is that the only way that we hear about issues, right, is that if somebody important brings it up. Yeah. And the issue with I think something good about representation is that you have somebody who has a platform who can speak for you.
Yes.
I do think that the issue is that because they have to speak for you, it means that the people who are listening to that speaker don't take the group seriously.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the time what we really need is to give people a platform to speak. But how things are set up now, getting a platform to speak is difficult. You have to like prove yourself in a lot of ways that aren't realistic for some people. And so I think we have this weird thing of like conflating this idea that, well, if you've done all of the work to get to the point where we'll listen to you, then it means what you have to say matters. Yeah. I can't get behind the idea that your experience does not matter unless you manage to get lucky enough to get to a point where someone is going to listen to you.
Yeah, like I guess a good like Greta Thunberg, like she's 15, 16.
Yes.
You know, like there's going to be people who don't take her seriously, which many are not taking her seriously just because she doesn't have a background. There's some type of proving point that, you know, an understanding. And to a point, I you know, that is true. Sure. You know, but like, you can't really dog on somebody who's like putting themselves out there to do something that's positive. Exactly. You know, and I guess same thing. And I guess we just keep running in a circle. It's different vessel, you know, and like some people agree with the way that she does it. Some people agree with what like the end goal is. It's like, do we have a common enemy? Sure. But we're taking two different vessels. It's just like we run into that same problem, that same cycle almost throughout any problem that we have. And so it's really difficult just to kind of like, okay, like, yeah, there's a group of people that are going to support you. Okay, they're on your side. The others don't. They're attacking that. And it's just like you just have the same thing that you had in any other problem.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know? Like, surely, like we said, like the UFOs, cool thing. Like, I think anybody could get onto that.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe for those that aren't and maybe express their opinion that's like, oh, this is like bad. Like, bro, just like, it's not that deep, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty chill. It's pretty cool if it is, you know? Like, it's just like something that we've always been in tune with for a certain portion. And like that environment is so huge, you know, like everyone has a different story to tell. And that's why one of the like many reasons of why I want to start a podcast was stories.
Yeah.
You know, like you have a very unique story, as we mentioned earlier, with having a lesbian couple being your parents, which is not your more commonplace thing. You know, you don't, especially in early 2000s, you know, and then especially nowadays where there's a community that seemingly represents them to a point. It's just like, okay, well, is it more commonplace? I would say so.
Yeah.
Is it more acceptable? I would say so. I don't know what that, obviously, there's no like statistic that says, oh yeah, it's more, you know,
yeah,
like something like that, you know? And so there's, everyone has a story to tell.
Yeah.
And everyone has a way to tell that story, whether that is in writing, whether that's in art, in dance, in just your experiences in talking to somebody else, you know? And especially growing up, we find out these things. We find out what we like. We find out what we want to do in life.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I tried so many different sports, you know? I didn't fall in love with track until 7th grade.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity in 4th grade, but I didn't want to. I found it in 7th grade. You know, I did soccer twice at 2 separate parts of my life. I did baseball, flag football, you know? And we find out what we like, and we find out that maybe, hey, we're good at something, but maybe that's because others give us the means to do so.
Yes, 100%, 100%, 100%. I think, like we said before, we're just very, very much shaped by our environment and the opportunities that are given to us.
Yeah.
That's really just all it is, you know? Like for some people, like for example, if you take like rappers, and this idea that like most rappers are like come out of the hood or whatever.
Oh yeah,
right?
Compton, Chicago, some really strugglesome times.
Exactly.
Daddy left, mama's in limbo.
Yeah, it's all this. It's kind of like it's all the same story. Well, why is that? Well, if you're in a position like that, and you have this necessity to express yourself, and music is a modality of expression that's good, and you can make it sound good, then it would make sense. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Very few people want to listen to music that has no sense of inspiration.
Yeah.
Nobody who has no sense of inspiration will write a good song.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's where it comes from. People typically will take struggles, take life experiences and put it into music.
Yeah.
And good music typically comes from those people who had some crazy life experiences.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
and so that's why we kind of see it coming out of there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's some type of accelerant, you know, like if I told my parents at age 12, I'm going to start a podcast in the next 3 weeks, I'm going to change our spare room. Do you really think that would be likely? Do you think that they'd get on board?
Right.
And especially now, especially when we become a little bit more independent, become financially sane as people, we are able to do a little bit of those things that we want to do.
Yeah.
You know, and that somewhat of that validation is only accelerant as we grow up.
Yeah.
You know, we're 20 now. So either our parents expect us to do things that they want, and or there is some type of level of validation that we can do those things, you know? And so like approaching my parents at age 12 to 20 would look drastically different with things like that, you know? And, you know, like when you're a kid, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a doctor, a firefighter, a policeman, I want to be a teacher, you know, like those things seem somewhat fictitious, you know, there's not, I mean, we're kids. We know that we're just either imagining, you know, there's the few percentage that actually become those things, you know, and whether there's some validation behind those ideas is only, I guess, driven by maybe your age or just what you've already done before, you know, like if you were the confident kid in class, I guess to a point, like in math. I'm a big math geek. So like math comes really easy to me.
Sure.
So like who's the person that they come to for tutoring?
Yeah.
The person who's good at math, you know?
Yeah.
Like it just makes sense because you've already semi-proven yourself,
yeah.
you know? And, you know, even then I still ask questions, you know? And like think about it. Like, do you always go to the teacher? Sometimes you go to your peers, you know? Like sometimes they have a different understanding, you know? And maybe there's some type of outside control or outside variable that you're like, I don't really like this teacher. They kind of teach really bad or teach a different way.
Yeah.
So you go to somebody who has a different way of thinking and a different way of actually teaching it, you know? And like, certainly mine may not come off easy because it's just the way that I learn, you know? And it's not like I can help everybody who comes, you know? And so it's just like, there's so many different ways that you can move in that validation and just even do the things that you want to do.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
So there's just that weird dynamic that like we talk so much about these different variables, you know, that can influence you, you know, like imagine, especially early on, you know, when maybe there's somebody bullying some other kid, you know, like maybe 13 years later, they're just as traumatized, you know, and just as impacted from an experience that maybe didn't really mean so much, you know, and it's just like, wow, like for me, who kind of just battled through that and had, you know, just like said whatever, you know, like my experience is way different. And maybe my outlook on life is so different, you know. Maybe it just takes one thing, you know. There's a lot of people who find Christ, you know, as like when they're at their low rock bottom and find that mode and that means of, you know, saving themselves to a point, you know. I don't know what the proper term is, you know. Some people say like saved by Christ, you know. And so like that's even a way, you know. And like you said, especially with artists, you know, I can definitely respect people who respect artists and people, any creative who has a big why, who has a huge why that is very relatable, especially coming from either a low socioeconomic background and doing everything for their family just so that they can be financially free for the rest of their life. And that motivation, you know, and I think maybe that's why athletes work so hard. And that's why these artists write about these things that are so real to them, you know, because there's some authenticity behind it, you know? So it's just like, I respect that.
It's definitely respectable. And I think it's really necessary. I mean, having something like music that you can like turn to when you're feeling something and be able to feel heard, it's huge. Music promotes this feeling of that you're actually not alone anymore. And even if you're sad and you listen to a sad song, it makes you feel better because it's someone else telling you that they've gone through it too. And like, which kind of validates that emotion. You're like, you're right. It did suck. And someone else experienced too. And so I'm sure everyone else is or has at some point.
There's this one NF song. NF is somebody who I really enjoy. Because there's so much authenticity behind his lyrics. And there's so much that had plagued him for years, you know? And then that only you go through this experience together. And so in his recent mixtape called Clouds, he has a song called Just Like You. Even if my car goes off the highway, or the plane that I get on decides it's my last day, I just want you to know that there's something in your life is okay. There's millions of us just like you, bro. Like, I remember going to that first Whitworth meet, and it just came out because March 30th was like our first Whitworth meet. And it came out on the 26th. And I was in awe. Like, I was crying on my way to the first track meet because that was just like, that song felt so powerful. And especially with how it goes. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like it just, like you said, it validates some type of emotion, you know, and the good or the bad, you know, like there's always two sides to that. And so that validation of that emotion was huge. And that's why I respect him so much. And especially with Russ, like I love Russ as an artist. He's an independent artist, you know, he's going to do his own thing and that's like what he wants to do. And in his songs, like he's always like, I'm going to bet on myself. You know, he made a recent song that's like, I got my money on me. I bet on myself. All in. And it's just like, that's, you know, like you understand what he's doing. He's betting on himself, you know? And even artists like Eminem, like I love Eminem, you know, and maybe sure, whatever, there's baggage behind any of the lyrics, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
But like you understand his story. And you understand that he lived in a trailer park with an abusive mom and stepdad.
Yeah.
And he had a kid very early on. And he's gone through marriage and he's battled through drugs and addiction.
Mm-hmm.
He lost his best friend in 2006. You know, you understand that. And I guess, especially when people do something that you don't fully understand, once you understand it, it becomes way more acceptable to you.
Yeah.
And to outsiders.
Absolutely.
You know, like
Absolutely.
I haven't gone through any traumatic experience in my life.
Sure.
That's like, oh, I'm doing this podcast and I know it's going to take off because I'm doing it for this and that.
Yeah.
You know, like I've had a few relatives die. I had my great-grandmother die, but it kind of makes sense.
Sure.
She's old.
Yeah.
I mean, she's my great-grandmother. She's not even my grandma.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't lose a loved one. You know, I didn't have, you know, a dad that wasn't in the household, a mom that wasn't in the household. You know, I have a sister with me, you know. There's so many things that could have gone into a trajectory that I just unforeseen.
Yeah.
But like I really haven't had that. But at the same time, I also have, you know, there's been times where it feels like everyone's against me.
Yeah.
You know, and there's been times that I felt that it was only me going through this, you know? And it's just a weird feeling because it's like, it doesn't seem valid, but it also does. And so that's like, when I was talking to Bloda on episode 3, we talked about like our coping mechanisms, you know, like a lot of people choose alcohol or like a quick fix, whatever those look like, drugs, alcohol, smoking, whatever that is, you know. For me, that's writing music, reading books, shooting hoops, you know. That's like my, I guess, quote unquote quick fix in a society like this, you know. Like I've never drank, I've never smoked, but like for so many people, that's all that they know or the only thing that they've seen, you know. My dad drinks beer on the weekends. You know, my mom used to drink wine back, you know, like 5 years ago. Yeah. You know, like surely alcohol was around. Never even taken a sip of it, you know? So it's just like, that's, again, that also like seems like why I don't know if my parents are my parents. But at the same time, it's just like there's these quick fixes for so many different people. And again, there also seems like there's like one size fits all to a point, you know? Like everyone either chooses alcohol or like, you know, like that seems like the like first choice, you know? Like for me, that's just music, you know? And especially when there's music out there that validates your emotion and how you're feeling, it's so powerful, you know? Absolutely. Like there's a few songs like that I put out, like Let's Be Friends. Like that's, I mean, like based on the title, you can kind of get an idea of what it's like. And it's just my relationships of always like getting friend zoned, you know? And certainly there's a message behind it, but like, it's just like, this is what I went through. I don't know if you relate to it, but it is what it is, you know? And then like, Gemini, that was like, like, this is who I am. This is like a song about me, you know? Like, this is what I've gone through. And it's like, the haters keep quaking, the traitors keep shaking, like something like that. And it's just like all these people that, you know, have doubted me over the years, you know, and it's just like I'm proving them wrong. Like I'm the crazy jumping Gemini. I won state, you know? And that's like, I guess like I didn't prove that to prove them wrong. I proved that to prove that to myself, you know? Absolutely. And that only just feeds back down into like, hey, I know you thought bad about me, but like, look at what I've done, you know? I understand if you're not satisfied for what I've done, but I'm satisfied with what I've done. You know? And then there's like The One on my these are songs from my EP Fact or Fiction, my album Fact or Fiction. The One, this is like basically talking about me being like the one, you know? Like I got to think of myself as a champion to be a champion, you know? And I got to think of myself as a high point, you know, because I always think about like, if you don't reach your goals, just aim higher, you know? It's not like, don't make your goals more realistic to me, but also keep them realistic. But it's like, okay, I didn't reach that goal, so I need to aim higher to reach the goal that I wanted to beforehand, you know? And so it's just like always reaching higher and always having a way to express myself and to do the things that I want to do. And that's, again, what being a nationer is. Absolutely. To do the things that you want to do and to remember to love the life you live and live the life you love. You know, So that's like the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
I may not have a why, and I may not have like some traumatic experience or an experience that felt like, dang, like this is the end all, you know, but it's like, this is my life. This is what I've gone through, and I'm willing to share that. I'm willing to be vulnerable in that, you know, and this is a place that I can be vulnerable, you know, and talk about the things that are maybe taboo or like I can't fit into a video, you know, like conversations like this, you know, surely this is like maybe a car conversation, or like after this when we get dinner, you know, like this is like a conversation like that, you know? So like, is there a time that you felt like maybe there was like some vulnerability in you and like you're willing to express that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, I think with anything like being adopted can be a difficult thing to navigate. For me, it was always this thing of like almost having to prove myself, because of this idea that, well, one family didn't want me, so I have to make sure that everyone else in my life does.
Gotcha.
So I think there was that, but I don't know. Also at the same time, it's like, I think we get a little bit too concerned with comparing traumas.
Gotcha.
And trauma comparison, because like, in my opinion, I don't think it necessarily matters what happened. I think it more matters how you feel.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you would know how to take care of it. Like, for example, if you took like a random person who was vulnerable on the street and someone walked up to them and punched them in the face, and it was traumatic and they felt awful about it, then you would have to deal with that differently than if you had like Conor McGregor, who was out on the street and someone punched him in the face and he laughs it off, right? Like it's literally the exact same thing that happens, but they experience it very differently.
Yeah.
And the only thing that you could focus on would be the way that they feel about it.
Yeah.
So I think what can be really hard is that people don't feel comfortable being vulnerable about expressing what's happening to them, because they think that somebody had it worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or they think that their problem may be too big for somebody to handle. It's always just like compare and contrast of like what's happening to me, and objectively speaking, like, is this important enough to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I just think that if it sparks something in you, if it hurts, if it makes you happy, if it makes you laugh, then it's something worth expressing. And for some people, they might not necessarily get it, but there will be somebody who does.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that like people can, like mass amounts of people from all sorts of different backgrounds can enjoy one song, right? Like if you take like any song from like J. Cole, right? He talks a lot about his experiences growing up in terrible places.
Especially being a black person.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in his most recent album. You know,
absolutely.
Talking about people dying right in front of him and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
There's probably not, most of his fan base probably hasn't actually experienced that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that they've experienced hardship. I'm sure that they might have experienced loss. I'm sure that they might have experienced fear. And in the same way that he had to be able to pick himself up to get where he is, other people might have had to do the same thing too. Something really scary happened to me. Maybe it wasn't someone who got shot, but maybe it was just like a class presentation or something.
Yeah.
That terrified
car accident.
me. Anything. It terrified me, but I had to get past it. And he had something like that too. And you can still relate to it. You can still feel that emotion.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Neighbors is a good song by him, especially talking about like growing up, especially being a black man, you know, maybe not being represented. And I think The Neighbors especially is a good title for it, you know, just because it makes sense when you listen to the song.
Yeah.
There's one song, I forget the title of it, but it's like, police come faster in 911 in white neighborhoods. I forget the song title. But it makes sense when you listen to the song. And especially like, what you were talking about, where there's like some type of you're not necessarily doing everything with intent that it's going to change something, but you're just putting yourself out there because maybe somebody has gone through the same experience, and maybe objectively speaking, that you said they are either like afraid to, or just like they having a different experience, you know? And so like recently, I don't know if you heard about this. This happened today. Raiders. I don't. D-line. He plays for the D-line. I'm a big Raiders fan, so he's like D-line. His name's Carl Nassib.
Okay.
I don't know if I pronounced his last name correct. It might be Nassib.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Nassib. He came out as gay today.
Whoa, that's huge.
Like, and he made it like no big deal. He like had like a little video on his like Instagram. He's like, "Hey, I just wanted to say, you know, I'm gay." Like, I mean, so nonchalantly.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like as a society, either way, we celebrate that, but reasonably so, just because like it's not the more commonplace.
Yeah.
And one comment was like, I hope one day this is where like we're not gonna feel like this is newsworthy.
Yeah.
You know? And like even I feel like that. I'm just like, why does it matter? Like, I mean, you come out as gay, that's cool. Like, I'm not gonna treat you any differently.
Yeah.
You know, and again, that's just individually, you know,
absolutely.
speaking. And, you know, like most of the comments either A, don't really care, or like say like who cares, or like why does this matter? Or like especially with Pride Month, like that's you know, a big month for especially a community that has either A, been misrepresented, or just maybe underrepresented. I don't know to a point because I'm not a part of that community, like as a person.
Sure.
And like he just said, I just wanted to take a quick moment to say that I'm gay. I've been meaning to do this for a while, but I feel comfortable getting it off my chest. Yeah. Like super nonchalantly. Absolutely. Like, I mean, it like, and it's weird because it's like I guess to a point, like it shouldn't be that we have to come out as gay. Like, it's like there was one TikTok like a while back. It's like, what about if everyone came out as straight? You know, like, it's just like, okay, like I get what your point is, but like to a point, majority of people are typically straight, you know? Yeah. It's like you said when you were talking about your psychology. Yeah. Like they take rather the majority because maybe either A, it affects more people, or that's just the way that they take it. Yeah. And so like for somebody like Carl, who, you know, who's super nonchalant, and he's like, and I'm not doing this for attention. And again, a lot of it comes down to intention, you know, because some people do it for the thing. Like Billie Eilish, like a lot of people were on her like last week because she posted like a Instagram photo where the caption was like, "I love girls." Oh, especially a month like this. Like, I don't know if there was literally any intention behind that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was like, I love girls. Like, as like, I love girls. Like, they're my favorite. You know, I love them. And it was just a photo with all her friends. Yeah. And then, like, then she was, like, on a date. She was pictured with her boyfriend or whatever their relationship status is. Like, people were, like, calling her queer baiting, you know, or, like, it's just like, who the heck cares? Like, I don't literally care. Like, she just put out something. Like, what is her intention? You know, like this guy, he's like, I'm not doing this for any intention. Yeah. Like, I'm a pretty private person. I imagine 99% of people don't even know who he is until this, you know? And surely like I said, like there was comments that say, you know, like, I hope there's a day that this isn't newsworthy. Yeah, absolutely. You know?
Yeah. And I think, I don't know. I always think that's weird. 'Cause it's like, yes, I do hope that at some point, you know, we won't have to make it like a thing.
Like a spectacle or something.
But also at the same time, I think it's weird that people are like, well, I don't know. Just think about straight people coming out as straight. I can understand it with the thought process that, from what I understand, for people, it's just like their sexuality is just their sexuality, right? Like they came out of the womb and then they just began to understand that's how it is. Yeah. So I can get that. However, I think that the reason that it's important for people to be able to say that is because, for one, it's a part of their identity. Yeah. And two, it's a part of their identity that most likely saw conflict.
Yeah, right? Yeah, saw some friction within doing that. Yeah.
And so that's why there's a necessity and this power and a sense of empowerment in doing that, right? Like this is me getting over the conflict. This is me being able to say this to everybody I know. Yeah. Which is huge, because then it can feel like it's actually a part of your identity, because your identity is also for yourself, but your identity is also how other people are seeing you as well. Yeah. Or at least it feels that way.
Sure.
So this idea that you're putting it out there, you're like, yes, now I'm fully myself. I'm proud to fully be myself. I don't have to hide any part of myself. Yeah. So I think that's why it's just so big. And yeah, I would like it to be different, but I also don't like when people try to undermine it for the
absolutely. Sake, I think there's some purity to it, you know. Yeah. And surely I don't know what Carl's gone through, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, especially when religion comes into play, especially a lot of Middle Eastern religions, where that's just like, I mean, they keep it to a point from transcript, from what they, learn in the Bible or whatever their modes of learning it is.
Absolutely.
And then there's, certain religions that, especially non-religious people don't care because it's not like something that they're following, and I think there's some divide between religious and non-religious sometimes, and people of people who have a darker complexion to people who don't, and it's just like, it's like, okay, like, come on, like, we can work together, like, we just need to see eye to eye, and like I said, sometimes we just need to agree to disagree, you know?
Exactly.
And that's why I guess maybe sometimes I like that state kind of thing, because then it's not like one thing, is like overarching everybody when like 25 states agree and the others don't, it's like state by state, especially with like marijuana. That was like a huge thing that like Colorado and Washington was like first to adopt in 2013. And it was like, okay, well, if you really want to, maybe just move to one of those states or like wait until your state kind of does that. Gambling and betting was only in Nevada. They've now opened it to more states, and so that's been a huge thing. And that's like, I mean, maybe doesn't have a whole lot of baggage just because gambling is like, okay, either you gamble or don't gamble, So it's like, it doesn't have a huge impact, but there's certain things that do hold a lot of weight. And I think maybe there isn't much of the spotlight on things that are maybe traditional to a point, like with that whole like come out as straight, like, okay, sure, but like at the same point you're kind of just taking it too far, like there's like, okay, like we understand what you're saying, but like again, like there's some purity in that natural, just like, here's the conflict that I've gone through, like I said, I don't know what he's gone through. He probably just said it super nonchalantly. Like the way that he approached it was like, okay, like, hey, I'm gay, And Michael Sam was made a spectacle of being the first openly gay NFL player. And just like I think sometimes it's hard for people to voice their opinion. That's especially when it's like something that isn't talked about so much, especially like especially when it's like conflicting something when a lot of people are just going to attack you, and that was really hard, especially for me, it's like I have certain opinions that like are going to be maybe controversial to a point, but it's just like I understand where you're coming from, I'm not going to like undermine you as a human. This is just what this is my understanding at this point, and I'm willing to learn, but like just work with me, like as if a teacher was yelling at me because I didn't know 2 + 2, imagine how hard it would be for me to even listen.
Exactly.
So it's just like, hey, I'm willing to work with you, like I'm not a religious person. So like a lot of those things with sexuality and marriage, like have no moral or merit to me at all, and like, especially like sexuality, like who the heck cares?
Exactly.
Like I look at anybody and I'm just like, yeah, they're pretty attractive. Like I think David Beckham's a very attractive man. Ryan Gosling, like, do I like him in an intimate way? No, but like I could call him attractive. And for any girl that I like, like I like girls, like that's who I am, and I'm not going to shame anybody for a guy liking a guy or a girl liking a girl, or anything that's in between, especially nowadays, who the heck knows what's in between there. But I mean, I think it's just sometimes hard for people to voice those opinions, especially when they are seemingly controversial. And not to say that all of mine are like controversial, it's not like, like I respect our policemen, but I also respect those who are underrepresented,
Absolutely.
And so like, it's just like, okay, like I have an opinion that like a majority of people take and an opinion that the other majority take. It's like, I understand, like, because I can empathize. I can't empathize, but I can sympathize because, especially with my leadership background, I've really started to understand and unfold a lot of these creases that have been unironed. And like, I understand maybe not everybody's in the same boat, we're all taking these different vessels to a different, on a different route, to an end goal, so it's just like, like I can support all these things, but like, just because I support one doesn't mean the other attacks me, and then vice versa, and it's just like, and for me, like, I like as an entertainer, like, and especially being a creator, it's very taboo to talk about your political stance or things like that, because you definitely lose an audience, you know? And it's hard because, like, as somebody who values a lot of our positive history and being free and being somebody who can actually voice their opinion, because there's places out there you can't even speak up against anybody who holds any power. And it's just really difficult, you know, like maybe just understanding where I come from, because maybe you can voice that opinion, you know, and something like this is where I can do that, you know, in confidence, you know. And it's just like maybe there's a fear of losing an audience, but like there's also like I just want anybody listening to understand that like this is who I am, you know, and like I'm gonna respect you for who you are, you know, like whatever you are, even if that's different than what I am, you know, like I understand that, you know. And so like even last year was a weird time for me because it's like I don't understand the full spectrum of things, you know. Like to a point, like I understand like if I do get pulled over, you know, as a Mexican American, you know, like I feel pretty safe, you know, like I always put my hands out you know, I'm always going to put my hands out to make sure that like their life is also protected, you know, and I understand those experiences, you know. And certainly like when somebody says like, you know, for this instant, you know, like a black man, when they get pulled over, you know, their life is hypothetically more in danger than if it were a white man, you know. But it's like to a point, like I'm just like, okay, but like let's dial this back. Let's unveil something. Like, sure. Like, I want to understand why that was the conclusion or something like that, you know? And it's so, like, I want to understand certain things that I want to know how you got to that conclusion, you know? Is it something that you felt because of something early in your life? Or if it was something, like, especially just unveiling those creases that were unironed, you know? And it's just like, I can't just take it with a grain of salt and just be like, okay, that's the way that it is. You know, I really want to understand these things, you know, and I don't want to jump onto a conclusion that maybe is ill-veined or maybe just not true or maybe just like invalidated or just like anything like that, you know? And certainly it's the same way backwards, you know? So like even last year with like, especially the stuff going down in May, I mean, it was just really difficult because it's like, okay, some people see me as a white dude. Some people see me as a Mexican dude, you know? So it's like, how do I navigate this? How do I go around that? You know, like, do I like approach somebody who like, not every minority is oppressed. Like there's, you know, there's minorities who lean on a non-traditional way, you know, and don't really care, you know, and have a whole different take, you know, on things, you know, like not every Pacific Islander understands it. It's not like one size fits all, you know. It's not like I had an experience with you. You're the only person that I know who's a minority. Every minority acts the exact same way. And I think some people really get into an echo chamber of that. Of like one size fits all, you know. And so that's, I guess, this is always leads back to like how the states are run. You know, it's just like we have so many diverse ideas. You know, like you said, it's like we can't just be like, here's a hat. You know, it's a one size fits all. Make it work. You know, we all have so many drastic ideas. Like think about it. Like if I put a hat on you, like right now with what you got, it would be so hard for it to be snug, or it would be difficult. It'd fit different than like, imagine if my hair was up and it didn't have that little opening in the back. How do you think I'd wear the hat? You know?
Exactly.
So it's just like we have so many different ideas and so many ways to move around it, you know, and so many solutions that some think are good, some think are not so good, you know? So like, what are your thoughts on that before we wrap it up?
I think there's this thing that I actually learned in a social psychology course, and it's called, I think it's called the one-shot correlation theory. And it's that it's been researched and tested that people are more likely to make a general rule of thumb for a minority group based on one small thing if they don't understand what that group is. And so,
gotcha.
So like how they tested it was that they had people like read a bunch of like really weird things, like this tribe in Africa, like everyone in there rides a unicycle or whatever, or like one person in there rides a unicycle, or like you have someone who's a Pacific Islander and at their house they have 23 chickens or whatever.
Okay.
And so then afterwards they had people read all these kinds of things from majority groups, out groups, whatever.
Yeah.
And they found that participants who read things that were about a minority group that had some sort of strange behavior were more likely to believe that that was the same behavior for everyone, or to be more curious about if that was, right?
Okay.
So if you had read something, it was like, this tribe in Africa, this one person rides a unicycle. Your next question would be, oh, I wonder if everyone in that tribe or everyone in Africa also rides a unicycle as common practice. And if people don't make that step to look it up, then they just start to believe it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the issue that we have when we have things like social media in general, or like the news or whatever. However the news is going to portray that minority, if you don't know people who are within that group, that's all you can base it on.
Gotcha.
And then as human beings, we are not comfortable with things that are unknown most of the time. Yeah. And so in our minds, we start to make those assumptions. So it's easier for us to have an understanding of the world around us.
Gotcha.
And so if you don't know that many people or individuals that are in minority groups, which is likely because they are a minority group, then you're not going to represent them in the correct light, right?
Gotcha.
You're going to make all these assumptions. Every African American thinks this way. Every Pacific Islander acts this way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, even think about it. You have two moms. I imagine, like, do you call, like, this is not me, but I imagine you maybe get the question, like, do you call one mom and one dad, or you just call them moms, or like, you know, like, especially when that's like, you have no idea. Yes. Like,
exactly.
Like, I even asked you this question, you know, or like somebody that doesn't know, you know, like, it's, like I said, it's not one size fits all, you know. Someone might call, especially with like two guys as their parents, do maybe one acts more feminine, one acts more masculine.
Sure.
Maybe the child calls one mom and one dad.
Sure.
But then in another family in the same situation, who has maybe two feminine or two masculine dads, like, doesn't call them mom and dad. They call them, like, my parents. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
So it's
anything like that.
So I guess that kind of relates to what you were talking about. Like, if that unknown aspect is so dissolvable, like a tablet, it's just like you put it into water and it's like, apparently that fills up this entire void. Yeah. You know, and that fills up this entire container. And apparently when I drink from it, this is everything that I like. Yeah. Everything has it. So exactly. It's a weird theory, and it's an interesting theory to say the least, because like, I guess if you don't know it, but like you can understand it, you can understand the theory, you know, and maybe not always where it's applied. Yeah. But like, you can definitely understand that concept applied to so many different areas, you know, like I have a sibling that my friend Casey, he's the only child, like his entire reality is so different, you know, for 20 years. We're not 18 anymore. 20 years. Even though he's had like a few billets, he's a billet. Sure. Which is like for hockey, they house like the players. Oh, yeah. So, because a lot of people are international or come from Canada, different states, so they need a place to stay. The hockey families typically billet for him. And so he's like, you know, he's had like, I guess, brothers, but for like 6 months, you know? So it's like, never got that full experience. And especially, there's just so many different variables that play into that. One final question for you, Samson. Okay. Who is Samson Irish-Lodge?
Who is Samson Irish-Lodge? Huh. I think that Samson Irish-Lodge is a creator and a creative. Yes. I can say that confidently.
Nice. Yes. Nice. I love that. Short and sweet, very open-ended, and I like it. Yeah. I like it because for those who definitely watched this entire podcast, definitely understand what that means.
Yeah.
To a point, to an extent.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was great talking to you, Samson.
It was wonderful. What
I'm
a great
glad
time
to have you on. Yes,
so
I know. I only
here.
said like an hour 15, hour 30. We went for almost 2 hours, which is great. I love it. I love it. I love these conversations because it's just a way that we both can express our ideas.
Yeah.
And what our, what we've practiced and what we've learned, and for us to learn from each other,
absolutely.
And that's the big thing. That's the big thing that especially we don't get all the time, like if you're just texting somebody, there's,
Yeah, exactly.
There's not really that purity behind it,
Yeah.
So definitely, this is just the way to do it, I love it.
I agree.
I love it. And I'm glad to have you on.
Yes, glad to be here.
We wouldn't have had you on if you hadn't reached out.
Oh, yeah.
So absolutely, my friend. Anyways, Nationers, remember to subscribe, like the video.
Oh, yeah.
Remember to love the life you live and the life you love. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace. Peace.